All right, hello, we are back. And today we are going to look at the Django admin, right? So in the previous classes, we have looked at how to display a particular thing, so using Django views. Next, we looked at, in yesterday's class, we looked at Django models. So we created a very simple model for tasks and tables and tags, right? And we saw how that is stored in the database. Now today what we are going to do is we are going to see how what automatic features Django provides for us, right? So Django provides a complete interface that allows us to monitor our site, right? To add data, to update and delete data from it. It provides a ton of functionality, and we are going to see how that works today. All right. So just give me a moment. Let me quickly share my screen. Just give me a minute. All right, so I hope that the screen is visible to everyone, and let us begin. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do once again is we are going to create a new folder. So this is a repository introduction to Django, right? Right, and we have the code for the previous few lectures. Let me quickly create a new directory, mkdir lecture 4, and inside this I'm going to create the project. So to do project, and let's say version 4. Okay, so I have just created these directories. Let me enter bash. Now let me also go into lecture 4, to do directory, cd. Oh, that was not created. Okay, so let me create that once again. mkdir -p lecture 4 to do project 4. Right, now I can cd into that lecture 4 to do project 4. Now I can create the virtual environment. So once again I can say virtual env -p. I can supply the path user then python 3.8, and I can see a venv. If you create the virtual environment, let me quickly activate the virtual environment source venv, then activate, and let me install pip. Let me install Django. Pip install Django. So if you're not familiar with what all we did right now, just go and watch the previous lectures in this particular series. So we have covered how this is the basic way of you setting up the Django project, and we have just gone through the steps that we have covered earlier. All right, now that I have Django installed, I can do something like Django admin, and I can start a project, and I can give the name project name to do project 4, and I can give the directory as the current directory. So now I will have manage.py to do project 4 and the virtual environment. Perfect. Now I'm going to quickly open my PyCharm IDE, and I'm going to load this project inside that IDE. So I'm going to click open, and inside lecture 4, I'm going to select this to do project 4 directory. Right, this has my manage.py. So I'm going to click OK, and this will load the project. So let us just wait for it to index everything. So it is saying indexing over here at the bottom right. Perfect. Now I forgot to perhaps change my display resolution. So let me quickly go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to displays. Let me fix the resolution of this to perhaps something more like this, so that the screen is much more clear to you. All right, I hope that this is more visible. Perfect. Cool. So moving ahead, so we have the basic project setup. This is the basic project that is set up. This is the virtual environment. So let us quickly add a configuration to run this thing. Let us add a Python configuration. In this, we will say run server, and we will provide the script path as module name manage, and we'll provide the parameter as run server. The interpreter is currently incorrectly set. So let me quickly select the interpreter. So I'll fix the interpreter in a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the interpreter settings, interpreter for this particular. I'm going to switch the Python interpreter, and I'm going to add an interpreter. And in this, I'm going to select this existing interpreter that is in to-do project v4, right? The one we have just created. So it will mark this directory as the interpreter. And now if I open the terminal, if I do which Python, Oh, okay, currently it is not, it has not recognized that as the interpreter. Just give me a moment. So interesting. Let us just reconfigure the interpreter. So okay, so it is saying that this is an invalid interpreter. Let me quickly add the interpreter over here. Add an interpreter, existing interpreter, to do project v4. All right, VM with Python, and let us select that. So it is not showing that for some reason. Okay, so let me just remove this one, and let me add this once again. So now it is working. Perfect. Let me save these settings. Cool. So now hopefully this has been recognized as the interpreter, default interpreter. If it is not, then I can basically right click and mark directory as I can mark this directory as excluded. All right. Now quickly let me open my terminal and let us try to see if the interpreter is recognized. Now we see that yes, the interpreter is recognized. The Python that I'm currently working with in this terminal belongs in my virtual environment. All right. So this was a basic project setup that we have gone through. We will go through this every time so that you basically remember it. All right. So, I mean, it does not take much time, but it's good practice to basically have this at your fingertips. Okay. Now, once again, what we are going to do is we are going to create a very simple tasks app. So just to recap what we have done in the previous classes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Python manage.py start app, and let me name the app as tasks. Okay. So a familiar folder over here will be created called tasks. Let me add the models in it. So I'm going to create a class. Let me just resize this. I'm going to create a class called task. And in this, I'm going to provide several fields. So for example, this has to inherit from models.model. Interesting. And then perhaps this is not indexed. So just give me a second, guys. Let me quickly close my editor and let me quickly open it again, because it seems that the project is not properly indexed. All right, so I hope that it is indexed now. It is currently saying that it is not installed. Now it is indexed. Perfect. So let us go ahead. So let us create a class called task, and let us inherit from model.model. We're going to add fields to it as we saw yesterday. So we are going to add a content field. This is going to be a text field perhaps, right? And we are going to perhaps add a created at, and this is going to be a models.datetime field. We are going to add a deadline. So a models.datetime field once again. And we are going to perhaps add like something like status. So let us create a class called task status. And this will be models.text choices. And inside this, we are going to provide several choices. So we had pending equals to PE, pending. We had completed equals to CO, completed. And we finally had dropped. Right? So this is DR, dropped. All right. So now we can come over here and we can say that the task status is equal to a models.char field. And we can specify the max length. So max length equals to 2. And we will have the choices equals to task status.choices. Let me just put this in separate lines. And we can also provide a default value. Default equals to something like this task status.pending. Apart from that, we also had a relationship with tags. So let me quickly come over here and create a tags class. So class tag. And this will also inherit from models.model. And this tag has nothing much. It just has perhaps a name. So name equals to models.char field. And the max length over here can be, say, 255. All right. And now I can come over here and describe a relationship that tags equals to models.many-to-many field. And I can provide that it is related to tag. All right. So this was the basic model setup that we had done till now. Finally, to register this to register this application, we had to go to settings.py and we had to mark it over here. So inside the installed apps, we have to mark it as tasks.apps.tasks.config, and we put this comma over here, right? So now, once we are done with all of this, we can come to our terminal, we can open bash, And we can run something like Python manage.py make migrations. So it will make the migrations for our tasks app, and we can run the migration. So we can say Python manage.py migrate, right? And this will basically set up our database and create all the tables for us, right? So this SQLite database over here, a file db.sqlite3 has been created, and once again we can open this file using SQLite3, and we can give it the name of this file, and then we can look perhaps at the tables, and we can perhaps look at the schema for a particular table. So we can look at the schema for tasks task. All right, this is what we have done till yesterday. Okay, so that was a quick recap. Now let us move ahead. Now let us see how to use and work with the Django admin. All right, perfect. So give me a second. Right. Cool. So let me quickly exit this. Press Ctrl D to exit that. And let us go to this terminal. All right. So what we have to do is we have to first look at the admin interface of Django. Right. So currently, if I come to my settings.py, then I see that some apps have been installed. So by default, this admin app was installed, and some dependencies for this admin app, the auth, the content type, session messages, and static files, this was also installed by default. All right, now what does this admin site look like? So let me quickly run the server. Interesting. Let me edit the configuration. So it is using the wrong interpreter. Let me quickly set the interpreter once again. And run the server now. So the server is up and running. Let me open it in my browser. And I see this familiar page, right? I see this familiar Rocket page. Then if I go to /admin, if I go over here and if I go to /admin, then I see another page pop up, right? It says Django administration over here at the top. And it says, okay, there's a username and password. Now I have not really created a user, right? So Django provides this user table upfront for me, right? So if we go back to this schema, if we go back to this terminal, in the terminal, if you go back to the schema, right? So SQLite3, db.sqlite, and if we look at the tables, we see that we have several tables over here. So we have table like user, we have table like users groups. Right? Let us quickly look at the schema for auth user. So let us say schema for auth user, right? Interesting. So currently it does not really show me auth user groups. Interesting. So currently these are not really showing me any schema. I'm not really sure why that is the case. But anyway, what I can do is I can, to create a user, once again, I can use the manage.py and I can give the command create super user. All right, so what this will do is basically it will create a user account on my application and it will give it super user permissions. Okay, so this is the command. When I hit enter, it will ask me for the username. So let me enter a username like Pragya. It will ask me for an email address, pragya@interviewbit.com. It will ask me for a password. So let me enter some password over here, and the password again, some password. All right, and it says super user created successfully. Now I can come to my website and I can log in using these credentials. So I can enter the username and the password that I have just created. So some password. All right, now if I log in, I see several things over here. I see an authentication and authorization, some sort of a block over here. It says groups, it says users. Right? It says recent actions over here, and it has several things. So it has change password, it has view site, it has logout. It shows this welcome Pragya, nice message over here, right? So this is the default Django admin interface. Okay, let us quickly take some time and explore this. All right, so over here, we see in the users, we see two buttons, add and change. And we also see that this users is clickable. So let us first try to click this users and see what happens. So I'm going to click this users and I see over here, okay, this is actually showing me what is inside my database. Right? So it is showing me that inside my database, I have a row which has the username Pragya, right? Which has the email ID, this first name and last name has not been set. Staff status, basically it has been set, it has been given the super user status. All right, so let me quickly go back to my terminal and let me now explore, select asterisk from auth users, right? Auth user, right? And over here, I see that yes, inside this table, I indeed have a row with the name as Pragya, the email ID as Pragya at interviewbit.com. I have several other fields. There's a date time field over here, and this is my hashed and salted password. Right? So automatically my password has been stored in a secure manner inside my table. All right, perfect. So basically, this is some functionality that Django provides out of the box. Apart from that, we also have this groups table. Right? So let us quickly see what this groups tables has. So currently, I don't really have any groups. We will talk more about what users and user groups are, what roles are when we talk about authentication. All right. For now, this is the basic Django interface. Now, currently, we see that yes, we have these things of users and groups, but we also had several models, right? We also had some models that we had created. We had models tag and task. These models don't really show up in my administration panel, right? If I want these models to show up, I have to register them. Okay. So to register them, what I can do is I can go inside this tasks. This is my application. Inside the admin.py, I will see that, okay, it says register your models over here. All right. So let me quickly register the models over here. To register the models, I will first have to import them. So I can say from the current package, import models. Right? And then to register the model, I will have to say admin.site.register, and I will give the name of the model. So models.task. All right, task. And if I want to register the tag as well, I can also register the tag over here. Okay. So once I click save, it will automatically reload the server. And now if I reload this page, I see that a new section has been created over here called tasks. Inside that, I see tags, I see tasks. Right, now let me quickly click at tags. I see it says that we have 0 tags. It gives me also this add tag button. Right? It gives me add tag button over here. Let me try to add a tag. So it is automatically giving me this thing. So remember that my tag has name. Right? It has automatically created a form for me in which I can enter a name. So I can say something like shopping. Right? And I can click save. Once I click save, it says the tag object 1 has been added successfully. All right, so this is basically like magic. So all you had to do was you had to create this class. So far all we had done is we had created this class and we had registered this class, right, with the add. Django has provided us so much functionality out of the box. It has provided us an interaction with the database. It has provided a very nice query language, and it has also provided us a nice user interface to add and remove data from this table. All right, perfect. Cool. So currently we have several things to improve in this. So for example, over here, I see this tag object 1. This is not a good representation of this object. And we saw that yesterday as well. So when we were working within the Django shell, when we tried to print out an object, we got a weird name like tag object 1. Now to fix this, what we can do is we can override the dunder str method. So dunder str method. So if you're familiar with Python, the dunder str method basically gives a human readable representation of the object, right? So if you're coming from the Java world, this would be something like object.toString, right, in the Java world. Right, so let us quickly override this. So in this, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to return self.name, right? So basically, whenever someone tries to display an object of this class, right? So currently it is trying to display an object of this class. Instead of displaying the memory location, instead of displaying the ID, it will be displaying the name of that tag. All right. So if I click save over here, it will reload the server. And if I reload this page, I see that yes, the name has changed from the ugly name tag object 1 to the actual name shopping. All right. Cool. Let us quickly pause over here and see if we have any questions. Perfect. Pranay is asking, I am using PyCharm installed in Windows 10, but sudo apt-get install SQLite command does not work. So yes, Pranay, sudo stands for basically give me super user permissions, and apt-get is a package manager for Linux. It is not going to work on Windows. Right. So for Windows, if you want to install something to look into SQLite files, then you will have to just Google something like a SQLite client for Windows. All right. Let us move on. Rohit is asking, how are you able to club Django project in PyCharm? So once again, Rohit, you can work with Django projects in the community edition of PyCharm as well. But if you want, you can also buy the unlimited edition, right? And the full edition also has first class support for Django. The community edition still provides you a lot of nice things that you would want to have. All right. Perfect. By the way, guys, if you are a student, you can also get a student license, right? So you can provide your college email, and thereby you can get a complete Python Ultimate, PyCharm Ultimate version for free as a student. All right. Perfect. Let us see if we have any other questions. All right, this seems to be it. Dhruv is asking, what did Dunder do? All right, so Dhruv, these are called magic methods. These are called magic methods, or these are also called Dunder. Dunder stands for double underscore, right? Methods in Python, right? And basically what these do is they provide certain functionality to your objects. So basically, if you want to implement a collection, and if you want the length function, right? So basically, if I have a list, something like 1, 2, 3, right? Let's say a equals to 1, 2, 3. And if I want to find the length of this list, I do len of a. Right? When I do len of a, internally this len function is actually calling this particular function, a underscore a dot dunderlen. So if on my object I implement this dunderlen function, then I can override the functionality of this len function. All right. So basically, these dunder methods, they allow you to hook into a lot of different functions, a lot of different behavior of Python objects. Okay. Perfect. So what this dunder string will do is earlier. So if I don't have this dunder string, let me reload the page. Then I will see this ugly name, tab object one, right? Tag object one. This is basically because the Django is trying to look at my tag object, right? It's a Python object in memory, and it is trying to convert it into a string representation. Now, when it is converting it to a string representation, it just has the name or the class name. It says object, and it perhaps gives me the ID. Right? This is probably not a very good representation for me. I would want the name. I would want the name itself to show up. Right? So I can override this dunder string method, right? Dunder str method, and I can return the name. So when I save and reload now, it will say shopping instead. All right. Perfect. So that seems to be all the questions. Let us now move on. Okay. So this is fixed. This part is fixed. Let us quickly look at the tasks as well. Right. So currently it said 0 tasks. Let us try to add a task, and it gives me this nice form once again. So it provides me all the different form fields for all the different attributes I have, all the different columns I have in my table. So the content, I can provide the content over here. This is a text field. I can provide the created at, the deadline. I can change the status, and notice that in the status, since I had these choices, right? So inside this task thing, since the status was a character field with these choices, task status or choices, that is all that I see. Right? I don't really see a text box over here in which I can put arbitrary things. I see just these choices. And I also these tags. So basically, I have a many-to-many relationship over here with tag. So I can come over here and select what tags this particular task will take. All right, so let us quickly try to do something. So let us try to add a task over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a task, something like buy chocolates. Right? And the created at, I can say that, yes, it is created today and it is created now. The deadline could be something like tomorrow and something like 6 p.m. So I have to buy chocolates by 6 p.m. tomorrow. It is currently pending and the tag is shopping. All right, so let me save this. Perfect. So it once again says task object one. Right, so for tags, it has a pretty name, but for task, it does not have a pretty name. So let me go ahead and let me override that as well. So inside the tasks, I'm going to once again create or dunder str. And in this, perhaps I'm going to return self.name or self.content. Right. So if I click save, I hit reload, I see buy chocolates over here. All right. Now I can add more stuff over here. So perhaps instead of just the name, I also wanted to see what the status of this task was. Right? I also wanted to see what the status of this task was. So what I could do something like is I could return it in the dunder str method itself. So I could say something like return the content. After the content, also give me the status. Right? So also give me the status. Right? So if I hit reload now, it shows me buy chocolates -p. P stands for pending. Right? Because the status, the value of the status is pending. Right? If I want to say something like, if I want to actually get the nice name of it, then I can come over here and I can ask Django to give me the actual display name, right? So let's look at the task status once again. So P is the actual thing that is stored in the database. The actual value will be P, but it will have an expanded name. It will have a display name called pending. So if I want to display this name, I can say self.get status or get status display. Right? So if I save here over here and I reload, get display status, my bad, get display status. And if I click save, if I reload, interesting. Just give me a moment. What am I doing now? Oh, I have to call this function. My bad. Get status display. Get status display. Let me call this function. And if I click reload now, then it shows me buy chocolates and it shows me pending. Is that clear, guys? Yes. So if I want to see more things, I can. One option is I can change what is in the dunder str. Right? I can change what is in the dunder str, but perhaps this is not the best approach. Perhaps this is not the best approach. We want to provide some extra things. We want to perhaps provide some extra things over here. Right? So we will see how to customize that. Django allows us to customize that as well. Okay. But now let us go back to this task things and let us try to add a task again. Now let us ask ourselves this. When I'm adding a task, I would like to provide the content. I would like to provide the deadline, right? And I would like to provide the tags. Should I have to provide the created ad and should I have to provide the status? When I'm creating a tag, the created ad should automatically be the current time. Yes. Similarly, the status should automatically be pending. Yes. Now, currently the status is set to pending. The status is set to pending because if I go to the task, in my status, the default value has been given as pending. I would like the default value for the created ad to also be populated. Right? So I can come to this created ad field. I can provide a default. So the default can be timezone.now. Right? So time zone is a nice functionality, nice utility that Django provides that makes sure that whatever date is stored, it is automatically stored in a standard time zone format. Right? So it will be converted to UTC and that will be stored. Right? So if I click save, if I click reload now, then you see that as soon as I go to this add task page, the created ad is automatically populated over here, right? And so is the status. These two things are automatically populated for me. All right. But there is still something that I would like to change over here. So first of all, this deadline, not every task has a deadline, right? So this deadline must be optional. This deadline must be optional. Currently, let us try to add a task, something like this is a forever repeating task. Right? So basically something like answer email. All right. So it is created today. There is no deadline. It is pending. And the current tag is none of these, right? So shopping is not a tag. If I try to click save now, I will get an error. The error says this field is required, right? So deadline is a required field. So to fix that, what I will have to do is I will have to go to the deadline and I have to tell Django that this is an optional field. So I will have to say that it is okay if the database entry for this thing is null, right? If the database entry for this thing is null. Similarly for tags, it could be the case that a particular task does not have any tag. So over here as well, I can say null equals to true, all right? Now let us quickly pause and see if we have any questions. Shravan is asking, when have we created this UI for tag and tasks? So Shravan, that's the point. We have not created this UI for tag and tasks. All we did was we created this model. Right? We created the task model and we created the tag model. Then we went to admin.py and we simply registered these two models in the admin side. And the moment we register these two models in the admin side, Django automatically provides us all this functionality out of the box. Okay, Django automatically provides us all this functionality out of the box. All right. Perfect. Let us move on then. So now that I have basically changed my models, right? This is not something that just reloading the server will make it work, right? Since I've changed my models, I have to actually run the database migrations. Right? So let me quickly stop the server. Let me go to the terminal. Let me go to the first terminal and let me once again make the migrations. Right? So it will say that, okay, I have altered the field created at on task. I've altered the field deadline on task and I've altered the field tags on task. So basically created at got a default value, deadline got a null, and tags also got a null. Right, so it has created this migration. This migration is now 00100 or 002.py. Right, so this has Django has automatically created this migration for me, and now I can run the migration. So I can say dot migrate Python manage.py migrate, and it will run the migration for me. Okay. Now once again, if I start my server, so the server is started once again. So if I now reload, I now go to this particular location. Now, if I don't enter a deadline, so I can say something like answer email. Now I don't really need to enter a deadline. This is an optional field. Similarly, I don't need to add a tag. So if I click save, it is saying that currently, so basically, interesting. All right. Just give me a moment. Let me first make sure that this is correct in the model. So this is deadline is null equals to true and tags is null equals to true. All right, perfect. So basically, there are two things. There is one thing called null and there's another thing called blank. Right. So to fix that, I will have to perhaps come over here and say blank equals to true, and blank is for validation. So let me just try that. Let me just reload now. And let me do something like answer email, and let me try to add this now. And now this works. All right, so my bad. Basically, I have to do two things. First of all, I have to tell that yes, it is okay to save a null value over here, right, in the deadline, to save a null value in the database, right? Secondly, I have to give it validation. I have to say that it's okay if the user does not add a null, does not provide this field, right? So basically, null. This is a database thing. Database thing. This basically says that it is okay. It is okay for this column to have a null value, right? On the other hand, the blank, this tells you this is about validation. This is saying that it is okay. It is okay if the user doesn't provide this field. Provide this field, right, while creating this object, right? Perfect. Now let us see. We have a question by Rohit. Rohit is asking, is that UI design included in our project files by Django? Do we have access to it explicitly? Yes. So Rohit, we will come to that question. So currently, if we see, we don't really have a templates folder over here. Right? We don't really have a templates folder over here, but hidden inside Django's templates. So Django actually is rendering a template over here. Django is rendering a template over here, and Django also allows us to override that template. Right? We will not see how to do that, but that is totally possible. Okay. Perfect. So Shudhanshu, I hope that your answer is now, your question is now answered. Null is basically a database thing, while blank is for validation. All right. Perfect. Dhruv is asking, could you briefly please explain why did we use the migration? So once again, Dhruv, I'm assuming that your question is, when we change this thing, why did we have to use the migration? So we use the migration for blank equals to true. For blank equals to true, the migration really does not matter because blank equals to true is just a validation thing. But for null equals to true, when I have null set to false, when null is false, right, in the database, a constraint will be added. A database constraint like not null will be added to that particular column. Right. So basically, if I go over here in the terminal and if I look at the schema of my task table, I will see over here that this date time is not null. Right? This date time is not null. This is created at. Created at is not null, whereas the deadline can be null. All right. So earlier, when we had not specified null equals to true, the constraint was not null. So the database literally will not allow us to add a row in which the deadline was not supplied. So we had to turn this to true, and then we had to tell the database, hey, update your stuff. All right. Perfect. Now moving on. So now we see that yes, we are able to create a task while leaving the deadline blank and while leaving the tags blank. And we also see that the created at and status are automatically filled for me. But this is still not good enough, right? This is still not good enough. I don't really want this created at and the status to show up, right? Because when I'm creating a task, why would I ever update this created at? Right? So I want this to be filled automatically, but I also don't want this to show up. Right? Now Django allows us to override. Django allows us to customize what content, what fields do we really see over here in this form. Right? And to do that, we will have to do something else. So let us go to this admin.py once again, and let us see that what we have registered. We have registered the task and we have registered the tag. Right? We have not really told Django much over here. We have just said that, hey, please create a nice UI for this particular model. If we want to customize that UI, then we will have to give Django some additional information. So that comes in the form of a model admin. So what I can do over here is I can come over here and I can create something like a class task admin, and this will inherit from admin.modelAdmin. Right? So if I say pass over here, I am saying that, okay, instead of having the default settings for the UI for this task, instead of providing the default settings, use the settings that are provided by this particular class. Right? And to register that, I will have to come over here and provide this class, task admin. Okay. So basically, I'm saying that instead of using the default UI, use the UI configuration that is specified in this particular class, task admin for me. Now, currently, there's no customization specified over here. So this will behave exactly the same. So if I save now and hit reload, this will look exactly the same. Right? But now I can override behavior. Now I can override the behavior of this particular form. So suppose I want this field and this field to vanish. Right? Suppose I want the created at to vanish, and suppose I want the status to vanish. Basically, I only want to display the content, the deadline, and the tags. So I can come over here and I can say something like fields equals to, and I can provide a list of names for the field. So I want the content, I want the deadline, and I want the tags. If I click save, if I save over here and I reload, notice that only these three fields are now available. All right, the created at and the status field, they have vanished from this form. All right, once again, magic. Now I can also customize how these fields are arranged. So suppose I wanted this deadline and this content to be in the same line, side by side, and I wanted the tags to be below. Or perhaps the content is fine over here. Perhaps I wanted the deadline and the tags to be side by side. So I can come over here and I can specify that as well. So I can specify two different rows in this, something like this, right? So I can say in the first row, display the content. In the second row, display a tuple of deadline and tags. So if I click save over here, and if I reload this, you will notice that this tags will move to the right of deadline. So this has not really worked. I am not really sure why. Interesting. So perhaps this deadline is taking the entire width. So let me try something else. Let me try to put the content and the deadline together. If I try to put the content and the deadline together and the tag separately. Now if I click reload. Interesting. This is not really working for us. I am not sure why this is not working at the moment. It did work when we were trying things on our own. Well, let's not worry about this. I will basically figure this out, and I will let you guys know why this is not working currently. So basically, what it should have shown is it should have put this deadline at the right of content, and it should have put the tags below. All right, perfect. Cool. So we see that Django allows us to customize this particular interface. Right? Django allows us to customize this particular interface. But this is not sufficient, right? It provides a lot of other functionality. So if I go back to my home, if I go back to something like tasks, right, what I'm currently seeing over here is I'm seeing all the rows in this database, right? All the rows in the table. So in the tasks table over here, I see that I have two tasks, answer email and buy chocolates. Okay, cool. So as we saw, if we wanted to provide the status over here, right? If you also wanted to show the status over here, one thing that we can do is we can override the dunder str method, but perhaps that is not the best way. Now, if we want to add a different field over here, if you want to show a different field over here, we can come to our task admin and we can override something called list fields, or list display. Right? So basically, this fields controls the main page, controls the add task page. Okay, this field controls the add task page. This list display, this will control what all fields are displayed in this list, right? In this table list. So in this display, I can come over here and I can say, hey, show me the content and perhaps also show me the status. Okay, so if I click save, if I reload now, then you will notice that the content is available and also the status is shown to me. Is that clear? So basically, this list display, this allows me to render additional attributes. Now, this is not limited to attributes. So in Python, we have something that behaves very similar like attributes, which is properties, right? Using the descriptor protocol. So we can come to this models, and in this task, perhaps I have a property, right? So I can create a new property over here. So something like add property, right? Def foo, right? Some property over here, and perhaps this just returns something, right? So perhaps this returns the value hello. Right? So basically now if I want to display this property, I can once again come to the add pin and I can add this property as well. So I can say foo over here, and this will automatically get the property for me. So foo, of course, the value is hello, so it is showing hello for both these different values. Okay, so this is not limited to just the attributes. You can also work with properties over here. All right, moving on. So we don't really need this funny property over here. Let us remove this thing, or actually let us keep it. All right, now it provides us a lot other functionality. For example, suppose I am looking at these things. If I want to edit this particular task, if I want to mark this task as complete, right? So what I will have to do is I will have to go inside this and I will have to edit this. But notice that while editing this, I have already removed the status field. Right? In the editor for this, I have already removed the status field. So how do I update the status? Well, perhaps I would want to update the status right over here. Right? Perhaps I would want this to be a drop down so that I can choose the status. So to do that, what I will have to do is I will have to map. So currently I have said in the list display, in this particular list, display all these fields for me. Right? I can come over here and I can mark some of these fields editable as well. The way I do that is by saying list editable equals to, and I can say what fields are editable. So notice that anything that is in list editable, this should also be in the list display. Right? So basically, let me try to add something like deadline over here. If I add deadline and if I reload this page, it will complain. Right? It will complain over here in the run. It is saying that the value of list editable 0 refers to deadline, which is not contained in the list display. Right? So basically, everything I have over here must also be over here. So let me say something like status. So status will become editable. So let me now reload this page, and now we see that yes, I can change the status from over here. Okay, so I have to click complete, but this is not done. I have to click save explicitly over here. Right? This will save the task. Okay, this will actually update the task. Is that clear? Yes, Pranay is asking, can you explain what this add property thing is about? So Pranay, this is the descriptor protocol. This is the properties and descriptor protocol in Python, right? In the introduction to Python video, in the last class of the introduction to Python series, I gave you some resources, right? And if you go to those resources, you will be able to learn more about this property and the descriptor protocol. Unfortunately, for now, we will not be able to go into a lot of detail over here. Okay, perfect. All right, so let us move on now. So we have made this particular status as editable, right? Now let us see what else we can do. So Django once again provides a lot of different things for me. So let us quickly explore this thing. So I have several things over here. I have something called action. Right? In this action, I have just one thing: delete selected tasks. Right? So basically, I can select this task, perhaps buy chocolates, and I can select both of these perhaps, and I can click on go over here. Right? If I click on go over here, it will confirm that yes, you want to delete this task. I will click yes, I'm sure, and both the tasks are gone. Right? Both these tasks are gone. So let me quickly add the tasks once again. So buy chocolates. So we have something to work with, and I can provide the deadline as tomorrow, 6 p.m. and this will be under shopping. Right? Let me add another task perhaps. So answer emails. It will not have a deadline. Let me add a tag to it. Right? So I'm going to create a new tag. So I'm going to create a new tag like repetitive tasks, right? I'm going to click save. And now I'm going to add this tag over here. And let me add another. So perhaps something like answer, uh, answer, or basically, basically watch YouTube, right? So I can once again click this as repetitive task and I can save this, right? So I now have 3 tasks, all right? Now I only have this action, delete selected tasks. Perhaps I want to add an action, right? Perhaps I want to add an action. If I've selected more of these, if I've selected multiple of these, perhaps I want to change the status altogether, right? So currently, if I want to change the status of both these things, I will have to manually say change this to completed, change this to completed, and then click save. Right? If I don't want to do that, if I just want to select these two and collectively mark them as completed, then I need to create a new action. Django allows us to override this action fields as well. Right? So now to basically provide a new action, what I will have to do is, first of all, I will have to create a function. Right? I will have to create a function. So this function will look something like def mark complete. Right? And this function has a standard parameter set. Right? So it has to accept a model admin. Right? It has to accept a request, and it has to accept a query set. Right? Let's not worry about what these things are. The most important thing for this particular function is this query set. So basically, this query set will contain whatever we have, right? Whatever list of values we have in this particular table. Right? So what we want to do over here is we want to update this query set dot update. Right? And what we want to do is we want to change the status. Right? So we have tasks coming in, and we want to change the status of this task to something like completed. Right? So models dot task status dot completed. Right? And since we are setting the completed, we must also set the completed at. Right? So notice that we also have a field called completed at. So we might want to fill the value of that as well. So we can set completed at equals to, and we can say perhaps something like time zone dot now. All right. Let me quickly import time zone from Django.utils. All right. Now I have this function. Right. Now I have this function. Now what I can say is in the task admin, I can provide a list of additional actions. So I can say actions equals to, and I can give this function name over here. So I can say mark complete. Right. And notice that I won't call this function. I will just pass the function directly. So if I click save now, if I reload the page, notice a new action has been created, mark complete. Right. So if I select multiple options over here, click on mark complete, and I click go. Right. So currently it is saying completed at does not exist. Let me quickly see. So I have made a mistake perhaps in the models. We have created that and we have done it. Okay, we don't have a completed at. Right. So let us quickly create that field. So we have a completed at field, models.datetime field, and it is not going to have a default value. Let me quickly terminate the server. Let me run the migrations. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to make migrations. All right. So it is saying null has no effect on main-to-main field. It seems that you have set a fixed date as default. Okay. So basically this will be null equals to true. And now let me make the migrations again. And now let me do the migration. Right. So now I have the migration done. Let me run the server once again. Okay. And let me reload this page. Now I can click 2 things and I can mark them as complete. Right. So both of them will be marked as complete. Is that clear? Perfect. So we have this mark as complete. So perhaps we would also want to mark them as pending again. Right. So if we want to do that, we can once again come over here and we can create another action. So we can create in the admin, we can create another action. So let me name this as mark pending. And this will just mark them as pending. Right. And this will set the completed at to null. Right. So it will remove that value over here. So in this actions, I can also add mark as pending. Right. So if I reload now, I will have 2 options over here. Okay. Now what I could do is I could also give it a description. I could also give this a description. Right. So I could come over here and I can provide a short description for these functions. So for mark pending, I can say mark pending dot short description, and I can provide a description like mark these tasks as pending, right? And basically similarly for mark complete, I can set this short description as mark these tasks as complete, completed today, completed right now, right? So if I reload now, I will see that this longer description is given for me. Instead of just the function name, this longer description is provided for me in this action list. Okay, cool. So that was a lot of functionality that Django has provided out of the box. This is not all. There's a lot more to come. Let us quickly pause here and let us see if we have any questions. All right. TE is asking, sir, I know this is a weird question. Can you please tell me the prerequisite for this Django? So TE Django is a very, very large framework. If you try to look at what the prerequisites are for learning the entirety of Django, then, I mean, your prerequisites will never end. Right? So whenever you are trying to learn a new framework, right, or when you're trying to learn a new technology, don't try to focus on learning everything of it. Right? Just try to get your basics. Just try to get your basics. It is okay if you don't understand a lot of things right now. If you don't understand, okay, how do I override this? How do I override that? If you don't particularly understand what this dunder str is, don't worry. Just try to absorb whatever you have seen so far, right? And basically, once you have the base, you can add to the base and extend your knowledge. If you try to complete the prerequisites right up front, then you will never be able to make progress. All right? Perfect. Amit is asking, sir, can you please tell me how many topics and sessions will be there for Django? Or is this the last session? So Amit, we will be declaring all the sessions on the YouTube channel itself. And no, this is not the last session. So in the last session, what we will do is, so before the last session, we will actually be deploying this application. Right? So currently we don't have a functional to-do application ready. Right? This thing is something that Django has provided to me. This is not something that I can expose to my users. Right? Basically, if I want a user to add a task, right? I don't want that user to log in as administrator and create the tasks over here. Right? This is something that I have. This is something that the developers can see. So I will have to create a lot more things. I will have to create views. I will have to create a complete website. I will have to create the forms for these users. I will have to put the user authentication, and I actually have to configure and deploy the application. All right. So there's a lot of stuff to come. By the end of this series, you will be actually able to create create your own website, right? Create your own products. All right. So let us move on. So far we have overridden this action functionality. What if we also wanted some sort of a filter? Right? What if we wanted to filter by, suppose, the status? I only want to see what the pending tasks are. Right? So currently I can click this and sort this thing. Right? So currently it is providing me sort functionality, but it is not providing me a filter functionality. Right? It is not really providing me a filter functionality. To add filtering, once again, I can come over here and I can provide something like list, and can you guess it? List filter, right? And in list filter, I can provide something like status. So when I click save over here and when I hit reload, a sidebar is created, right? And in this sidebar, I have all the different options for the status. Right? I can filter by status. I can select all of them. I can only select the pending ones. I can only show the completed ones. I can only show the dropped ones. Right? So magically, Django has provided this functionality for us. I can provide more than one filters as well. So I can come over here and perhaps I can say a deadline as well. So notice that deadline is a date time. Deadline is a date time. So if I click reload now, you will see several other options. I can filter by deadline. Deadline filters will be any date, today, past 7 days, this month, this year, no date, has date, and so on and so forth. All right. So I can basically by deadline. So no task has a deadline of today. No task has a deadline of past 7 days, and so on and so forth. All right. So this year, one task buy chocolates will have a deadline of this year because the deadline of this is tomorrow. All right. So I also have nice filter functionality. Perhaps I also want to search over here. Right. So Django also provides us searching functionality. So I can come over here and I can say search fields equals to, and I can provide the field content. Right. So if I now click reload, so I have this search field over here. So I can say something like email, right? And I will hit search, email and hit search, and it will filter this out for me. So it will say that, okay, yes, one of these tasks has the content answer emails. Okay, so basically I'm supplying what attribute to search in, right? What attribute to search in, and I can basically I can basically talk about nested attributes as well. So it could be the case. So currently I don't have anything. Right? It could be the case that buy chocolates has a tag of shopping. Right? What if I wanted to see? What if I wanted to filter by shopping over here? If I search by shopping right now, it will show me. It will say that I have 0 tasks. Right? Currently, it is saying that shopping has 0 tasks, and that makes sense because none of the contents say shopping. But perhaps I wanted to search inside the tag as well. So I can come over here and I can say something like, tags, and then provide a double underscore. So this is a double underscore. Notice that tags under name. So if I click save now, nothing has changed. But if I search for shopping now, it will also search inside the tags. Right? So no longer it is searching in the content, but it is also searching in the tag names. Right? So shopping will show me buy chocolates. Is that clear? Yes. Perfect. Once again, I can also filter. I can also filter by other things. So let me put tags in the filter and let me click reload. So currently I have just one, I have two tasks, I have two tags created, right? So one of the tags is shopping, one of the tag is repetitive task. So it is giving me these options as well. So I can, just give me a second. I'm not sure why my browser is not displaying the entire window. So, let me just restore this page. So now I can see all the tags. So basically, if I click shopping, it will show me the tags that are limited to shopping. And it is not showing me all the page. So don't worry about that. It's probably because I changed the display resolution. All right. So we can also have nice filtering and search functionality over here. Is that clear? Now, once again, this is not all. Django provides us still more functionality out of the box. So perhaps I'm looking at the tasks, right? And currently these tasks are in an arbitrary order. These tasks are in an arbitrary order. I want to provide an ordering for these as well, right? So perhaps I want to see the latest deadline tasks first, right? So the tasks with the nearest deadline, I want to see them first. I want to see the tasks sorted by deadline. So I can come over here and I can also provide ordering. Ordering equals to something like deadline, right? So now if I click save, it will order the tasks by deadline. So currently it has not really changed anything. I am not sure why that is the case. So let us quickly display the deadline as well. So if I click reload now, we will see that, okay, just one task has a deadline, and which is why it is coming at the top, at the bottom. All right. So if I remove this now, pressing. All right, I have a tab over here. It is still at the bottom. So perhaps I can sort order by something else. So perhaps I can order by the status. Right? So if I order by the status, if I click reload, then yes, it has ordered by the status. So completed comes first and pending comes later. All right. Perfect. Now let us see if we have a question. Shravan is asking, if I want to append few functionalities to Django administration web page, which is not in Django, how to add those functionalities. So Shravan, that is a more advanced topic. We will not be looking at that right now, but Django also allows you to do that. So first of all, you can add your custom forms over here. Right? You can add your custom forms over here. So if I try to add a task, right? If I try to add a task, I'm seeing something like a form. Now Django allows you to create your own forms, and Django allows you to embed those forms in the administration site as well. Apart from that, you can customize the template for this administrative site completely. You can customize the template. But that is not all. There are also drop-in replacements for this template. So you can customize a lot of other things. You can basically completely overhaul this administration site. Right. So towards the end, I will be giving you some additional resources that you can look at to learn more about that. All right. Perfect. Shubhanshu is asking, do we have to remember these things or can we check them while doing the project? So once again, Shubhanshu, you do not have to remember these things. Right? You do not have to remember these things. You just have to get an idea of what all things Django offers. Right? Once you have an idea that, okay, something like this was offered in Django, then you can quickly Google for it and you can use it in your project. Right? On the other hand, if you don't even know all the functionalities, so basically before today, we did not know what Django admin was. Right? And basically, if you were creating a new project, you would not have known that all these things, all this nice UI is created for me out of the box. Once I know these, it is okay if I'm not an expert on Django admin, but now at least I can Google things and learn things on my own. right? So having the overview of the framework is important, and then you can learn the details yourself. Perfect. Let us quickly move on. All right, so the ordering is done. Now let's quickly see if we have any other things. So basically, all of these things we have done so far, I have marked them as attributes in the task admin. Right? I have marked them as attributes in the task admin. I can also mark them as functions. So perhaps I wanted to change how the ordering behaves for different users. Right? So perhaps for a super user, I wanted the ordering by deadline. Right? And perhaps for a normal user, I wanted the ordering by a status. So instead of giving it a fixed list, I can come over here and I can define a get ordering. Right? And this will accept a request. This will accept a request. So now I can say if request.user.is super user, right? Then I can say return status. Otherwise, I can return the deadline. Okay, so basically, now if a super user is viewing this form, then the ordering will be based on status. For other users, it will be based on deadline. Right? So I can do this for all these different fields. Is that clear? Perfect. So that is it about Django admin. Now there's a lot more to Django admin, right? Django admin is a huge thing. If you want to learn more about it, I am quickly going to give you a link. So let me just paste this link over here in the chat. Right, so this is a nice tutorial that you can go through to learn more about Django admin, right? This is a 3-hour tutorial. It covers most of the stuff that we have covered today, and it covers some extra stuff as well. Right, so it is a much longer tutorial. It is 3 hours. Go over here to learn more fancy stuff that Django admin provides. Otherwise, just go to Django project, right? And go to the documentation. Inside the documentation, you will have a complete section on the Django admin. We'll have a complete section on the Django admin site, right? So Django admin site, and you will be able to see a lot of different things in this. All right, Django provides a lot of different functionalities for us. Cool. So this was it for today's class. Let us quickly see if we have any questions. So this is Django admin. Tomorrow, what we will do is, so far we have used Django admin to create all this nice UI for us, right? Tomorrow we will see how to create our own forms, right? How to basically customize these forms ourselves, how to create these forms in our own views, right? So currently everything is under /admin page. Everything is under /admin page. Perhaps I want to create a view. Perhaps I want to create a view over here that displays a nice form for me, that allows me to edit these different objects in the database. So how do I create my own forms? That is what we will look at tomorrow. Right? Perfect. Sudhanshu is asking, can the URL for admin be changed or not? Yes, Sudhanshu, the URL for admin can also be customized. Okay, the URL for admin can also be customized. All right, it seems that that is it for the questions today. Cool, then see you tomorrow, guys. Bye-bye.